I do like the fact that he had that Sunday night win last week. And I think it's okay if this is it for Aaron Rodgers. Now, if he has a burning desire to run it back one more time and do it with the Steelers or do it with somebody else hey, that's his prerogative. But he left it on the field, played the complete season at 42, won a division, won a huge winning in game on Sunday Night Football with the world to see, where he threw for 400 yards. Like, I think he could hold his head pretty high saying, hey, I didn't go out the way it would have gone out if he had ended after those Jets 2 seasons.
Congratulations to whatever decision is made, and congrats to the Houston Texans. I mean,
Oof.
what an unbelievable win, Shrakes. We talk. I'm saying glowingly of the Houston Texans defense since I watched them play against the Colts.
Mm.
They were so good, so fast. Our crowd was booing within the first 5 minutes of the first quarter because they knew our offense wasn't going to be able to do anything against them. They did that last night and then some, obviously scoring like 14 points within a matter of what seemed like 2 minutes in the fourth quarter to kind of change the entire game. But you mentioned Matt Burke as being a head coach. No shit. I haven't heard his name at all.
Not
That's a
once.
special defense over there right now. They're on the path to be historic. They might win it all because of the defense, Shrakes.
Let me tell you something about Matt Burke. This is a guy who has been around the league, has bounced around a bit, was with the Dolphins, with the Eagles, gets to Houston, and this is before they drafted Stroud and before they drafted Will Anderson. And D'Amico's obviously defensive coach. This year, D'Amico gives up play calling duties on defense to Matt Burke, who very quietly has put together this season with D'Amico, obviously a big voice in it. And these guys have been unbelievable all season. So week 4 or 5, Orlovsky and I went out there and we called, and I was on that broadcast crew that called the Seahawks Texans Monday night game. It was part of a doubleheader. Not a lot of people stayed up to watch it. But now you look at it, it's Seahawks Texans. Seahawks won by 14 points. You don't think much about it, whatever. The Texans defense absolutely dominated that game. And I came out of that thing being like, okay, like I know they lost, but this team is legit. Then they beat the snot out of Josh Allen and the Bills. They eliminate the Chiefs. They go on, they get to the playoffs. And then last night on national television, just absolutely destroyed the Steelers offense, which was clicking the week before, top to bottom. And I give not only D'Amico and Matt Burke and the players a lot of credit, I give Nick Caserio, the GM, a lot of credit because a lot of it's homegrown. They drafted Stingley before Sauce Gardner. Everyone was like, you're drafting Stingley before Sauce? Stingley had all the injuries. Drafted Stingley before Sauce. Traded up to get Will Anderson. Petrie was a second-round pick. You look at those different pieces. Bullock, draft pick. Lassiter, draft pick. And then bring in Al-Shaair, right? Bring in Danielle Hunter. This is a loaded team, all three levels. And it might be one of those years where everyone's like, anyone's guess who's in the Super Bowl. We wake up the Monday after the AFC Championship game and we're like, holy crap, the Houston Texans are playing in the Super Bowl, and they have the best defense since the Baltimore Ravens fielded in 2000. They're that good, and they are that deep, and they're that well coached. Seahawks game, Bills game, Chiefs game, and this game where it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, when you get eyes on them in person, it's even different because they're all big. They're all fast.
Oh,
They're all strong, and their gap sound. And Deba, you were talking in that. Troy was talking a lot about it last night. They're like the old Seattle Seahawks defense, right? Where they're just doing their shit.
Yep.
You just know exactly what it is. It's not like Aaron was going to have some sort of advantage by being able to pick apart what they were doing. They're not disguising anything. They're just playing football, saying, "Let's go and get it." Right,
And,
Deba? What does that mean for like going forward?
I mean, it just means basically everyone knows their roles. So everyone, and even the offense is coming in, they know, okay, this is where it's going to be. They're going to be playing this type of coverage. This is how we can attack it. But everyone knows their roles. So if I'm playing with AJ, I'm always in a curl flat, and he's always in a hook curl. Like, we almost know how each other's going to play each down. And you talked about that Ravens 2000s defense, the LOB. They were similar. Even that no-fly zone defense in Denver, they kind of won that Super Bowl when Peyton was there. Like, you knew what they were doing lining up. Their guys were just better, and they flied around. They were better coached. And the way that this team swarms, and even when you catch the ball, like, you're going to get a headache every time you catch the ball. And that's if the quarterback can get the damn ball out of his hands. Like, they are unbelievable. Kind of depending on how they finish this playoff run, can definitely go down as one of the all-time great defenses that we've seen.
I love that AJ and Darius are here also. It's Danielle Hunter's got 115 career sacks. He's 31 years old. We never talk about this guy. I mean, we're talking about an all-time legend putting a career together that is doing so in anonymously, back Minnesota and here, just compiles sacks.
Should have been first team All-Pro.
And yeah.
Oh,
and
that's
just
rich.
having a huge season.
Who's
I don't
voting on
vote.
that?
I voted for him as first team All-Pro. So
Did you?
yeah,
Can't say that.
The Houston
It's
Sack
out already.
Station, brother. The Houston Sack Station. Daniil and Will Anderson. Listening to Will talk, geez, he's a 55-year-old man.
Yeah.
It's
Didn't
like
sweat.
they got it.
Perfect
Not at all.
hair
How about
with Laura
D'Amico?
Rutledge
How about
afterwards?
How about D'Amico mic'd up right before the game? That's abnormal.
Like the
for
first good
college game.
pregame interview, too. We always talk about how terrible those are.
He was good, but he was on with Scott Van Pelt. He was
Yeah.
on with I think Ryan and Jason and Swagoo.
Don't get that often.
No, he just signed up for it. Now, granted, there's always an issue with the earpiece. Always an issue with the earpiece. We have it there. College Game Day has it every once in a while, those things. And then D'Amico had a little bit. I think it's because these new modern ear things are supposed to be bent around the ear, but nobody wants to get in there and really bend. You got to really bend it. So then if you don't, that thing's sticking straight out the side, like this as it's on there. Yeah, it's just kind of a thing I've noticed.
Do you go molded earpiece on game day?
I use Schurz. I got some Schurz, Shures, and I just
But like mold
right on
them,
the
they mold
bottom.
them to your ear or no? No.
No, I don't like that. I don't want to do the what's that they put in your ear where they do
Wax.
the mold.
Yeah, feel like you're underground and it's like you're underwater. It's super, but like
And
I have the
don't think it's
molded
that loud.
ones. Yeah, I know.
I like mine loud. My shit's very loud, too loud probably. I'm gonna be deaf whenever it gets. I think those molded ones aren't loud enough because I think they're trying to look out for my ears. So I need that shit pumped in there.
This is inside baseball for you viewers at home. This is how we talk about sports broadcasting. But when you're at a live event and then Pat's at these game day, experiences, and these guys are doing the alt cast, there's different earpieces. And mine is
Peach Bowl.
Oh, man.
So loud.
Oh,
was it
man.
nuts?
That was the loudest pop I've ever heard. I was there for John Cena whenever he came back in Fort Worth, Texas, I think.
Yep.
Or El Paso, Texas. That was loud. That was an insane pop. Stone Cold Steve Austin in Dallas, WrestleMania.
take it,
What?
take it,
First time
mania.
Oh, yeah.
Dong, obviously, is a kind of a different pop, but that's real. Last night, or at the Peach Bowl, that pick six by Ponds, first play, because they were already
First
loud and
play.
juiced. First play, they're already loud and juiced, making noise because Dante's out there. Oh, and then pick six. Oh, that was the loudest pop I think I've ever heard in my entire life. That was impressive. But yeah, you're right.
I was
You
in
can't hear anything
I was in
on a side.
Seattle for 2013 NFC Championship game, Kaepernick versus Crabtree in the back of the end zone. And when that play happens, it's still the loudest I've ever heard a stadium in my life.
Is that during the chain snatch?
No, that was
Aaron
different. That was
Andrews?
the lead.
Oh,
This was the
Richard
Aaron
Sherman?
Andrews
Yeah.
afterwards, where Aaron Andrews interviewed him. And Sherman's, you don't know this. And
Don't you ever
who
talk
you
about
talking
me.
Yeah, try me the sorry ass. Yeah.
I love that. I like how Aaron handled that, by the way, like a boss.
Yeah.
Like a boss.
you talking
just
about?
just like Laura earlier this year with Herbert, like a boss. Just like no big deal. We're in the sports world. Let's get back to the sports world. Go ahead, AJ. AJ has a question for you, Shreg.
Schrags, what about with this coaching hires in the NFL, obviously? Is there any young or, say, people under the radar that's going to get hired? We heard BA came on earlier. He thinks it's going to be like the recycled coaches are going to get these jobs. Like, who is someone that we're not talking about that's probably going to pop up and get one of these gigs?
Yeah, I'm looking for your list. I don't see this guy, Nathan Schillhouse.
Okay, yeah, we mentioned him earlier, too. What? All of a sudden, you guys just make the decision we're going to pump this guy up today? Like, what's going on?
No, I've been talking about it for
Carrying his
weeks, but
water.
I'm also
of course you have.
I'm also from the McVay camp, if you will, as far as talking to those guys, and they've been talking about him for several weeks and several years. So here's his story: 35 years old, quarterback at Illinois, 4-year starter, quarterback at Illinois. Then goes and works for Matt Campbell for a bunch of years at Iowa State. I'm sure Ty Schmidt got to see his eyes on the Schillhouse experience out there. And then he left and was like, I need to do more. So he goes to coach for McVay. The issue is this: he's never called plays. So he's not the play caller. He's the third guy on the org chart underneath Mike LaFleur and McVay. But everyone raves about this one. He's 35. He's got 3 interviews. He's got the Ravens on board also, which is an interesting fit considering Lamar. And we're talking about guys like Jim Schwartz and different older coaches for Lamar. Well, here's a 35-year-old who might be considered a peer. Maybe he's the voice you want. So that's one to watch. Kubiak and Minter got interviewed by everybody, and Minter's going to interview with everybody. Those are sort of the young names. The wild card is this guy, Grant Udinsky, who's 30 years old as of today. He's the offensive
Happy birthday.
And yeah, thank you. Yeah. Happy birthday, Grant. 30 years old, but he was the OC for Jacksonville this year. And I heard you guys talking beforehand about Ben Johnson and what a difference that was. Like, how about Liam Cohen? And 1 year ago, we were talking about this moribund franchise and why would you interview? Liam Cohen got one slip for an interview, one, and it was the Jaguars, and they just had this wonderful season. So all it takes is the right hire and the right juice and the right energy, and things can change. They really can. And I know fans in Cleveland or fans in Miami right now are like, what the heck? Like, we can't get this right. Like, if you hire the right guy, things can change.
All the guys that are deemed not the right guys in a lot of these places are going to get hired at new places. Your thoughts?
Meaning?
Stefanski, McDaniel, Harbaugh, all the LaFleur. If they were to move on from LaFleur, I guess they would probably trade him. I guess is what people are saying. But they would get.
That's what Adam was saying yesterday.
If Tomlin gets moved on from, he'd be a head coach anywhere he wants. It's just like all these guys. Like, hey, if you hire the right guy, it's like, well, maybe it's a guy who just got fired from another place where he wasn't the right guy. There's a chance that happens a lot on this particular.
It works. Like you know, Andy Reid worked. I think Mike McCarthy worked in Dallas for the most part. Like, had a nice second run there. Gary Kubiak worked in Denver. Like, it's worked. It's interesting because the Harbaugh stuff, the Harbaugh discourse is all over the map. It's like Atlanta interviewed him, and then I've never seen this before. Beat reporters from the Giants coming out and being like, "Yes, but the Giants had a meeting on Saturday." Like, it's all over the map, and I think he'll end up somewhere. But I also would say, hang tight on everyone. Harbaugh being able to pick and choose where he wants to go. Not every team wants John Harbaugh necessarily as their coach. Every team looking for a man who's been coaching for 20 years somewhere else. And they might be looking for the first time coach and a young, voice who we haven't seen. Like, every team is different. So Harbaugh, I believe, is the lead dog for the Giants. I would imagine that's a great fit, but it's not necessarily the perfect fit everywhere. And just because there's an opening doesn't mean John Harbaugh is going to be the head coach of that team. The team that I would say keep an eye on with Harbaugh, other than the Giants, interesting. Tennessee Titans makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, what happened? Why is this happening? I heard this. We need to keep him out.
Did you hear this elsewhere?
No, yeah, well, yeah, I saw it on the internet. It might have been your tweet. I don't know if you posted it, but I saw like multiple people posting that for some Ryans, Liam Cohen. We're about to get John Harbaugh in the AFC South. I don't think so. And why would he like Tennessee? Because Nashville's the sweetest city in America. Is that what that is? That he loves honky tonks. What's that?
It helps. It helps. Nashville's a cool city.
I love honky tonks. We all love honky tonks. I love Nashville.
Blank slate, quarterbacks in place, cool, good GM and Mike Borgonzi, who everyone respects around the league, and an owner who's basically going to say like, "Hey, here, as much as everyone thinks she's meddling, like, they want to win. Like, here are the keys. Build it. Like, build it." And they have a new stadium coming next year. Yeah. Like, all that stuff is exciting for
cool place.
Now. It's a great city.
Nashville's awesome. Nashville's awesome. It might be the best city in America.
So you'd think about it like that, and then it's the Giants. GM's already in place. They have a young quarterback. 4 Lombardi trophies on the wall, like a lot of the Giants thing is like, this is a Giants type of coach. Tom Coughlin came in here. Parcells came in. Like, the Nashville thing is a little looser if he wants to. And if he interviews well with them, I'm not even sure they're offering him the job. My point is this: Stefanski can interview for all these jobs.
He's got to impress them.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Schrags. I'm stepping on you here. Just a couple of things you've said have been so surprised. Maybe the Titans don't want Harbaugh. And for the Titans, I don't think he do. I don't think he fits the culture down there.
Nope.
I think we need to keep him out of there. As an
NFC South man, I understand. AFC South man, I understand you saying that. I would add this: the Ravens, really interesting, right? They had their run with Harbaugh. It ended. It was time. They move on, whatever. There are going to be questions to everybody around the Ravens and everybody who's been around Lamar Jackson. If you're hiring John Harbaugh, well, what exactly happened there, right? So there's going to be other sides to this. I'm just saying it's not Harbaugh having 8 choices and picking. He's got to interview for these jobs, and it's got to be the right fit. He'll get a job. If he wants to he'll get one of these. But I don't think it's 8 teams waiting on their hands while they're not meeting other people and not open to other ideas saying, gosh, will John Harbaugh pick us or not? I don't think it's that deal. Look, Bill Belichick interviewed with one team, and everyone, when he was done, was assuming he was going to have his choice. One team, and he didn't get the job.
Interesting. So we'll see what happens with Harbaugh. We assume he's going to get a job. But there's another guy that you talk about, Baltimore, allegedly did get an interview. Not 100% sure. Didn't expect this name in the cycle, but it could get hot. Diggs has a question for you, Schrags.
Yeah, I do, Schrags. I did see that Cliff, I believe, did interview. Sorry, Cliff Kingsbury, OC for the Commanders, former coach of the Arizona Cardinals, did interview with the Baltimore Ravens. Do you have any insight on kind of how that ended in Washington? Because it was kind of surprising, as far as, you know, there was reports about they had a meeting and then they decided to part ways after the meeting. And is Cliff someone who do you think could get a head coach job, and will definitely get an OC job if he doesn't get a head coaching job?
Well, he wants to work, and I could tell you it would be I think he would be fine with me saying this. It would be an honor for him to be able to work with Lamar Jackson. That is something that is very exciting for him. I think for Cliff in Washington, at the end of the day, they wanted to make a change, and he was more than fine to no longer be the offensive play caller in that building anymore. And he loves Jaden, and he loves Dan Quinn. I think it was just time. And they're moving on to David Blau, who's a 30-year-old, and they get their fresh new start, and excited to see where that goes. It actually ended on good terms with him and Quinn. Cliff goes on now.
They don't like each other, Schrags. Why they parting? They don't like his system, his scheme. What, do they want him to run something that he doesn't want to run?
I think that was it. I think they're looking to get more into a different scheme and really mirror what they did in San Francisco and in some of that stuff that Adam Peters brought over there. And I think that's fair. What Cliff does is different. It's not what they want to run, so they're going to move on. And again, both sides are cool with each other, happy, and Cliff's going to get an opportunity. Now, what's interesting is. Well, DQ, like Dan Quinn was like brokenhearted to say goodbye. He's like the greatest guy in the world. So
no, the ice cream.
It's fine. But with Cliff, he interviewed yesterday with the Ravens, did it in person, and he interviewed both for the head coaching job and the offensive coordinator job, which I think is really interesting. And I think Mike McDaniel is going to do the same thing with Baltimore as well. They're bringing these guys in, and it's DaCosta, it's Sashi, and it's. I believe Bisciotti has input, but I don't know if he's in this round of interviews. And they just want to hear you talk because they haven't had a fresh voice in there for 18 years. And they want to hear what your philosophies are. And they want to hear what you're going to maximize and do with Lamar, because this doesn't come from the Ravens side or Cliff, but Lamar, this is one of the greatest offensive talents we've ever seen enter this league. And that window, as huge as it is, well, with his contract and all that stuff, like, I don't know if Lamar plays the same way at the later part of his 30s. So right now, the next 3, 4, 5 years, like, we have to strike the iron. You have to make the right hire. And there has to be a connection between quarterback, coach, and offensive coordinator. So what I thought is interesting is McDaniel, Cliff, they can meet in person because they're currently not employed by these teams. And they're interviewing for both positions. And maybe Salah's the coach and Cliff's the OC. Or maybe Jim Schwartz is the coach and Mike McDaniel's the OC. Pretty cool way they're going about this. They just want to meet and learn and hear about everything. And I believe Cliff has a request for Tennessee to interview for their head coaching job, but that hasn't been scheduled yet. So Cliff's wide open. I think Baltimore makes a lot of sense, either in that head coaching job or offensive coordinator. But if it doesn't go that way, he's cool. He's open. He wants to see what's next also.
Fascinating interviewing for both jobs. Good luck to all parties. McDaniel going over there would be fascinating. He's in Detroit today, right? McDaniel interviewing with MCDC. Is that accurate?
It is. He's in there today. Mike interviewed with Cleveland and Atlanta yesterday for their head coaching jobs.
That would be interesting. McDaniel very well. Obviously, we've gotten a chance to chat with him a couple times. I don't think if I was a fan of a team and they hired McDaniel as a head coach right now after what just happened in Miami, I'd be pumped. But hey, everybody can rewrite whatever they want. Him being an offensive coordinator, though, I think he's getting a parade in every place he gets hired. So, just two different ways to kind of look at it. Hey, D-But's up, by the way. I think he's going back to Patriots fan base. I don't know if you heard about this. He's hopping a bandwagon to the Patriots. I think that is.
I saw him and McCourty. I saw him and McCourty hugging in a photograph. Yeah. Lovely.
He's getting recruited. D-But's getting recruited to take his bandwagon to other places. It's insanity. But I'll tell you what, D-But, got to keep 4 teams in a holster. Never know who's going to let you down. Okay, let's move along. A couple quarterbacks that their story is obviously potentially not a great ending, but could change massively. Connor has a question.
Yeah, Schrager, feels like next in line for a new home would be Tua and Kyler Murray when it comes to, next year and where they're going to play. Do you have any read on what teams might be interested, whether they're going to be traded, whether they're going to be cut? Like, what is that situation with Tua and Kyler, and do you fully expect them to be starters somewhere next year?
No. Tua, I don't know. I don't think Tua will ever – again, I have to say this with like a giant. I don't think Tua is going to be the quarterback of the Dolphins next year. Kyler, I don't know. Kyler finished the season hurt, obviously, and everyone's assuming they're just going to get out of that contract. But let's see who they hire as a head coach and what that head coach's vision is, because a lot of the conversations there in Arizona are going to be, what is your plan at quarterback? Because Jacoby Brissett played well, but they didn't win a game the final, I think, 10 weeks of the season. So I'm interested on both of those as well. Those are two of the names that are going to be like those veteran guys that might be out there. Mac Jones is another one, and then Malik Willis is another one. Those are 4 names that are being circulated as like, who's your Baker Mayfield? Who's your Sam Darnold? Who's your, reclamation project that you can get behind this year and say, hey, he's either a bridge quarterback or he's a guy that you could be a competent veteran starter that maybe isn't going to cost you 50 to 60 million.
What are some of those team strikes? Which kind of teams you just listed 4, but what are some of the teams you would say, hey, they're not going to do, the entire, hey, let's go get a young guy, let's draft a guy and build around him. But where would you kind of pin as a team that might do a bridge year for a quarterback? Maybe, Pittsburgh, any of those?
Pittsburgh, I think Cleveland is a possibility. I look at Minnesota. I don't know what we have with J.J. McCarthy moving forward. I don't know if they were blown away. Like, do you bring in a Tua, or do you bring in a Malik Willis, or do you bring in a Kyler Murray to Minnesota and say, all right, we're going to challenge J.J. McCarthy. It's year 3 and we haven't seen anything really that's given us the proof that this is the guy moving forward. So interesting with all those teams. And of course the Jets are on the board, but after the Justin Fields experiment, I think, be cautious them giving a big contract to one of these other reclamation projects.
What about Aaron Rodgers to Kevin O'Connell's offense like we almost saw this year? Remember that? That was a potential possibility. And I was bummed out if Aaron, what's that?
I say bro, because like that's not a crazy thing if Aaron still wants to play, and that roster still to this moment is built to win.
Have you heard any rumblings between them? You heard anything about how?
No, there was rumblings. There was rumblings during the whole Rodgers wait and see, and that was real. Like, Darnold going to Seattle was one move, and then you were like, well, what's the other shoe that's going to drop? And then there wasn't. It was just JJ's team, and then when JJ got hurt, no offense to Max Brosmer, but it wasn't necessarily built to win. Carson Wentz was the August edition.
Come on.
Brosmer's a real Brosmer. He'll be in the USXFL. We know that, and he'll do. He'll
be an NFL quarterback, but he wasn't. He's not Aaron Rodgers.
He's got a lot of Wentz in him.
Not yet.
I mean, maybe Brosmer is an NFL quarterback. In my eyes, he's got Birmingham Stallions written all over him.
Come on.
And he'll be
learning under the tutelage of A.J. McCarron.
Kind of good.
Good coach.
That's what I'm saying. If he's selling out
Ted
stadium,
Ginn will coach
maybe
him
he goes to
Bring him to Columbus.
Maybe he goes to the Battlehawks.
Sure.
Ricky Prohl.
Jordan Talman might still be.
One of the greatest.
Anthony Beck still with the Battlehawks? Wasn't he the coach?
Yeah, he's coach still. Yeah, he's entering his 5th season with the Battlehawks. They're obviously under new ownership there as a whole. They're excited. They sell out that stadium.
Shout out to Rocco Becht joining the Penn State Nittany Lions, I believe. Right?
Good for Rocco. He feels like he's 27 years old. He's only like 23 or whatever.
Yep.
Unbelievable. There's somebody looking for 7 years of eligibility the other day. Who was that? Somebody was trying to
UVA's quarterback. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. There's a couple of them.
Okay, what else do we need to hit? No, Shreds, you have the answers on stuff. That's what I'm trying to make sure we get from you because you have the answers on all the shit. Okay, yeah. Last question here from Conman.
Yeah.
Yeah, Schrager, you mentioned a bunch of different quarterbacks there in different locations. What about Atlanta? Is Penix and Kirk, are they just rolling with those two? Are they going to be in kind of the quarterback conversation when it comes to, new head coach coming in, possibly new front man as well?
So Atlanta is a really interesting deal. So let's go through it. So Raheem doesn't think he's getting fired, gets fired after winning 4 straight games. And then we learn after the fact that, the conversations, informal, were happening with Matt Ryan anyway. They go through this entire search for this head of football operations deal. They interview Brant Tillis, who's the man down in Carolina. They interview Mike Disner, who's in Detroit. Foxy might know that name pretty well. He's been part of that whole rebuild.
Oh, yeah.
And in the end, they're like, it's going to be Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's doing his press conference right now. Fine. But they don't have a GM yet, and they don't have a head coach yet. And there's also, Arthur Blank, who's an owner in his 80s, and Arthur's son, who's 29, Josh Blank, who's been working at the league office for years and is now sort of taking a bigger role. So there's a lot of voices in that room already of like what we're looking at, vision, and Matt Ryan's there to kind of synergize it all. I say all this because I don't think I could give you a valid answer on what their plan is at quarterback because we don't have the head coach, we don't have the GM, and Matt Ryan's voice is going to play such a large role in the vision of this team. So anything I thought would have been from the previous regime and before the last couple of days, Matt Ryan's not coming in and saying, hey, Penix is the guy or Penix is not the guy. That's why you do the interviews. That's why you meet all these people.
Excited to see that. He said he's not going to pull a Phillip Rivers and play football, but we'll see.
Saw that.
You never know.
Saw that.
We'll see. We'll see with Matt Ryan. All right, Shregs, we appreciate the hell out of you.